The Library of Lost Souls. Some libraries are built to preserve knowledge. Others are built to preserve something much darker. Evelyn was a graduate student who loved books more than people. She spent her evenings in the university library surrounded by the smell of old paper and dust. Unlike most students, she wasn't there for assignments. She hunted for rare finds, forgotten works tucked between crumbling shelves. The university library was massive, a labyrinth of wings and annexes built over a century. Even the staff admitted they hadn't mapped every corridor. There were whispers of sealed rooms, locked archives, and staircases that led nowhere. Evelyn thought those were just rumors, until the night she discovered the hidden door. It was past midnight. The library should have been closed, but Evelyn had special permission to stay late. Her flashlight beam skimmed across the shelves as she explored the oldest section of the archives. That's when she noticed it, a seam in the wall where no seam should be. Her fingers brushed against the uneven plaster, and a section of wall clicked open with a soft groan. Behind it, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. Evelyn hesitated only for a moment before curiosity drove her down. The air grew colder with each step. The stone walls were damp, lined with moss, and the silence pressed against her ears like a weight. When she reached the bottom, she found herself in a vast hall filled with bookshelves that stretched far beyond the glow of her flashlight. It was impossible. The room was larger than the building above could contain. At first, Evelyn's pulse raced with excitement. She had found a hidden archive, untouched for decades. But when she pulled a book from the shelf, her excitement curdled into dread. The cover was plain, bound in cracked leather. Across the front was a name, written in faded ink. Daniel Harper. Curious, she opened it. The book was not a diary, not a novel. It was a life. Page after page detailed Daniel's childhood, his school years, his job, his marriage. Every word was precise, every memory etched in ink. Evelyn's hands trembled as she flipped further, finding descriptions of conversations, moments, dreams, things no one else could have written. She flipped to the final pages and froze. The entries ended abruptly with Daniel walking down a street late at night. The last words read, "He hears footsteps behind him. He turns." The rest of the page was blank. Evelyn shivered and slid the book back onto the shelf. She grabbed another at random. This one bore the name Margaret Lewis. Again, it was a life story, from birth to death. Only this time, the final entry described Margaret lying in a hospital bed, reaching for someone's hand. Then, nothing but blank pages. Evelyn's stomach knotted. She staggered backward, her flashlight beam shaking. Every shelf, every row was filled with the same kind of books. Each bore a name, a library of lives, and then she saw it. A volume on the lowest shelf, smaller than the rest, with her own name stamped across the cover. Evelyn Carter. Her hands went cold. She reached for it slowly, unable to resist. The book was heavy, as though it didn't want to be lifted. When she opened it, she nearly dropped it. It was her life, her childhood, her first day at school, her first kiss, all written in perfect detail. Evelyn flipped through the pages in disbelief, her heart hammering. The book knew everything, every choice, every secret. Finally, she reached the last filled page. It described her walking down a hidden staircase, flashlight in hand, discovering a library that should not exist. Her vision blurred as she read the words, and there, beneath them, was a single unfinished sentence. She turns the page and sees the rest was blank. A chill ripped through her chest. She dropped the book, stumbling backward. The sound echoed too loudly in the cavernous room. The shelves seemed to stretch higher, closing in. Looking ahead already? The voice came from the shadows. Evelyn spun, her flashlight trembling. A figure stood between the shelves, tall, gaunt, draped in robes as dark as ink. Its face was hidden beneath a hood, but she could feel its eyes boring into her. "This library records every soul," the figure said, its voice both a whisper and a roar. "Every choice, every breath. The books grow until they end, until the final page is written." Evelyn's throat tightened. What are you?" "I am the librarian," the figure replied. "The keeper of endings." She tried to run, but her feet refused to move. It was as though the air itself held her in place. "You've opened your own book," the librarian said. "Few ever do. Fewer still turn too far." "What happens if I do?" she whispered. The librarian's hood tilted as though amused. "Then the book must catch up." The shelves around her groaned. Pages rustled, though no wind blew. Evelyn looked down and saw her book lying open on the floor, its blank pages filling with ink before her eyes. Words etched themselves in sharp, deliberate strokes. Her pulse races. She cannot breathe. She tries to flee, but the librarian steps closer. Evelyn dropped the flashlight and clawed at the walls. "Stop! Please!" The ink spread faster. Her scream is swallowed by the silence of the stacks. "No!" Evelyn shrieked, slamming the book shut. For a moment the words ceased. The silence was suffocating. The librarian crouched, its shadow stretching across the floor. "You cannot close what has already been written." Evelyn staggered back, clutching the book to her chest. She bolted toward the staircase, legs pumping with terror. But no matter how far she ran, the rows stretched endlessly, shelves repeating like a nightmare loop. She stopped, gasping. She was lost. Behind her, the librarian whispered, "Turn the page." Her hands shook violently. Against her will, she opened the book again. The words were already there. She runs, but the staircase is gone. She looks back. The librarian is near. The page was wet with fresh ink. Evelyn's breath came in sobs. "Please, I don't want to know. Don't let it end here." The librarian's hood dipped lower, shadows swallowing its form. All souls must end. All stories must be shelved. The final page was nearly full. Evelyn dropped the book and sprinted into the darkness, desperate for escape. But she never found the staircase again. Days later, the library staff discovered Evelyn's abandoned notebook and flashlight near a crumbling wall. They assumed she'd gone missing in the city. No one found her body. No one ever would. But deep below, on a forgotten shelf, the book of Evelyn Carter sits closed. Its last page reads, "She disappears into the stacks, another soul lost among countless others." Her story is finished, and beside it, another book waits. A new cover, a new name, someone who has not yet entered the library. Maybe yours.